Hi, everyone, and welcome to S&C Sidebar, where we talk with our different partners about some of the most interesting legal issues they've seen in their careers and what they are seeing on the horizon, among other topics. Today, we are joined by Andrew Finn, who, among other things, heads our international arbitration and global dispute resolution practice. Andrew has litigated a wide variety of cases, from commercial and investor state arbitrations to securities class actions and other significant contractual, bankruptcy, and competition cases. Some of those we've done together. Andrew has been a partner since 2018. Let's start with some of the most interesting issues you've worked on in cases throughout your career.
Well, Sharon, thank you for having me. And in terms of interesting issues, I've had many interesting issues that I've had to deal with clients over the years, several with you. But most recently, I've been focusing on international disputes in courts and in arbitration. And those cases oftentimes have an added dimension to them because often we're dealing with different and sometimes conflicting jurisdictions and laws and regulations that could be in the US, non-US, and sometimes some form of international law. So in addition, you're also dealing with parties who come from different countries, different ways of operating, different traditions in terms of how they run their businesses and sometimes resolve their disputes. So working through those kind of added elements with clients can be challenging. It's always interesting. And the most rewarding part about it is, when we're actually able to find some practical solutions to issues in our work for clients, that's what I find particularly rewarding.
Now, you became head of the international arbitration and global dispute resolution practice pretty early in your partnership. First, how did you come to focus on arbitration matters?
Well, I came to focus on arbitration matters just by doing, like a lot of us do here at Sullivan and Cromwell. And S&C has long maintained a strong practice in assisting clients on their most complex international disputes in arbitration and in courts. So my focus since taking the reins of that practice has really been maintaining that tradition and making sure that we're on the leading edge of that practice, so that we're able to deliver and advise clients when their disputes cross borders, as we've all seen they often do.
Are there any high-level legal developments in the arbitration world going on right now that you think clients should be aware of?
I think the biggest one is really the landscape outside of particular international arbitration and international disputes, and that is where we are in terms of global commerce, whether it's the changing landscape in restrictions on free trade, whether it's the policies of many countries that seem to be moving toward a more insular, protectionist, perhaps nationalist policies with respect to their natural resources and development of their industries. And that has a lot of impact on clients and companies that have cross-border work, that work in a lot of different countries. And it can be really complex in terms of sorting that out. So we have, for example, many countries who are moving away from investment treaties that a lot of companies have come to rely on over the last several decades, to provide a level of basic legal protection when they're investing in some place outside of their home country. And for those who do business internationally in this landscape, where uncertainty seems to be the guiding sentiment right now, considering what legal regime and forum for disputes that they have and their contractual arrangements with their counterparties provide for is very important. And a lot of companies are re-examining that. And for example, what we've seen, particularly as in new transactions that are coming about, there's been a much more focus on what kind of agreements people are going to enter into in terms of arbitration. Am I going to agree to U.S. courts to resolve my dispute? Am I going to agree to some foreign court, non-U.S. court to resolve my dispute? So the political and other risks that you see, not just in the U.S., but other countries throughout the world, we're seeing real world consequences of that in terms of how people are going about doing business and figuring out where exactly, when they might have a dispute, where that will actually occur.
Seems like a very sort of interesting and holistic area of law to practice in. As I sort of intimated, you and I have known each other for a long time, and I'm pretty confident that some of your first matters were ones we worked on together, including matters related to the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme and the fallout from from that. And we also did a 9-week antitrust trial for Microsoft in Salt Lake City. Yep. And more recently, we've worked on a number of underwriter cases together. So to me, I think of you as both this arbitration specialist, somebody who I call on when I'm dealing with arbitration and global dispute issues, but also, a classic Sullivan and Cromwell generalist at the same time. And I'm wondering from your perspective, like, how does that sort of generalist background weave into your arbitration practice?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the Madoff matters.
Ones that never end.
It seemed to never end, but also involved all sorts of different forms for those disputes, whether it was bankruptcy, whether it was federal court claims in the United States, international arbitrations. Much like our practice and our generalist model, what I found over the years is that a lot of these international disputes have a lot of dimensions to them. It's not just one single issue that's before one single court. Many times there'll be a lawsuit or an arbitration, sometimes in multiple jurisdictions involving different parties, different laws, and there may be also at the same time negotiations going on towards some solution or a new deal. And there are also oftentimes some sort of related government investigation. So I think our generalist approach means that for these kind of major issues, we try to look at holistically what our clients are facing. And we're used to doing the work hand in hand with our transactional general practice colleagues, with whether it's our folks who do government investigations, whether it's our co-counsel from various parts of the United States or around the world, to work hand in hand with all of the stakeholders to try to make sure we're all rowing in the same direction toward a solution to whether it's the big problems or the little problems that are part of the larger issues. And I think that's fundamentally what you learn as you work at a place like Sullivan and Cromwell, is to see the big picture as best as possible to try to help our clients navigate through usually for us, it's the storm, right?
Yes, it's usually very stormy. It's interesting that you think about this in terms of coming to client solutions. When I think about you, one of the things I think about is that you've always been a really good client servicer, as somebody who has an ability to work with a lot of different clients and foster strong and productive relationships. And you just would be interested in your insight about how you do that.
Yeah, I've really grown to love to learn about our clients' work and our businesses. We have a whole range of different types of clients, both individuals, but also companies doing all sorts of interesting work. And what I've come to learn, and I think many of us have over the years, that understanding the challenges and opportunities that the clients face, the only way you can really do that is to try to get a better understanding of what they're actually doing outside of, again, that narrow context of the single dispute or lawsuit or arbitration or government investigation, whatever it may be. So that helps, I think, me provide better advice on how to resolve and get to an actual solution that's beneficial toward the client. So a mining company operating in Latin America is not necessarily looking at all the same factors as a bank operating in Europe and Asia, or an energy company here in the United States. And so getting to understand what those companies are doing broadly and what their aims are can help work through with the client, but also on our side, coming up with a strategy to get them through whatever issue they have that they may come to us for.
Helping both sides identify both the problem and the solution.
Exactly.
So, last question I have for you today, switching gears a little bit. What advice do you have, if any, for associates who are looking to focus on becoming a partner someday?
I think that the biggest lesson for me over the years in working here at Sullivan and Cromwell and seeing from others what they've done and learning from so many people at the firm, I think the biggest takeaway for me is practicing law is not a spectator sport. And to excel in this sport, like any other sport, you need to practice. You need to commit to it. And that means different things for different people because different people have different skills and excel in different areas. Some people are stronger at writing. Some people are stronger at working with witnesses and working with people face to face. But you need to practice every single aspect of what we do, from working closely with our clients to developing a case. And all that may take years to unfold. So while many people want to jump from day one to they're at the top of their game, it takes time. It's a practice. And as one of our former colleagues put it, at least in our litigation group, we're not necessarily always in a position of we're just here to sit and write law review articles. We're actually trying to help our clients come up with a real solution to real world problems. And that takes focus, it takes commitment, and it can be very rewarding once you kind of realize how much you can learn and develop your own skills in the process of actually that effort to actually dig in and commit to the work that we're doing.
Yeah, I firmly agree with that. Though I rarely couch things in terms of sports metaphors. It's definitely not where my skill sets lie. Thank you so much for taking the time out of what I know is your busy day to have this conversation.
Thank you, Sharon. It's a pleasure to be here.